Iguodala. Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good. Kyrie Irving from downtown. The three, steps back, crossover, puts up a three. Rebound James. Second. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
Cleveland! This is for you!
Good evening, Cavs fans. Welcome to another fun edition of the Block the Shot That Stops NBA Weekly. I'm Tim Daniel, joined tonight by Skylar Webker. And Skylar, I am super excited for our guest tonight. I have been wanting to get this guy on the show since we started the Block the Shot to Stop. If you're a Cavs fan, you know all about him. Honestly, one of the guys who makes the Cavs Blue Sky community so cool. You can check out our Cavs on SI, Babcock Hoops. He's kind of like me. He's kind of got his fingers in a lot of different places. So hanging with us tonight to talk a little Cavs basketball is Mr. Spencer Davies. Spencer, welcome to your first episode on the Block the Shot to Stop.
I love it. Guys, the name is awesome. I appreciate you having me on, and thanks for the introduction. Makes me feel good.
Absolutely. You did have to wear Ohio State stuff around me today, but
you know, and you just gotta rub it in a little bit, right?
For sure, man. I do like on the Riverfront. I do the Bengals show. We recorded today too over there, and my co-host there is an Ohio State fan. So I was like, nope. I was like, hey, it is what it is. My team was there. I'm happy. Kudos. Like, you know,
the Bengals are looking to take the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, that's for sure happening. So, but yeah, we wanted to bring Spencer on because Spencer's one of the guys who's really tapped into Cavs. Cavs on SI is one of the best sites out there for us Cavs faithful. And obviously a lot going on with the team right now who is really, really good. So Spencer, I could ask you the obvious, like what your thoughts are on the season, but obviously it's they're a really good basketball team. So I'll generally try to say this in a more intelligent way. Are they extremely better than you thought they would be this year, or just a little better than you thought they'd be? Or about this, did you think 36-6 was a possibility?
No, not at all. I thought that they would be good. I thought that they would be improved, but I didn't think that they'd be at the halfway point mark of the season with only 6 losses. And I don't think Kenny Atkinson honestly expected that. When you talk to him in the press conferences, he's just like, you know, you have letdown games pretty often in the NBA, no matter how good your team is. But there's just a level of focus and there's a level of knowledge that this team has an understanding of. They have unfinished business and they have something to prove this year. And I think each individual kind of has that in their mind, and they've united for a common goal. And that common goal is obviously to win a championship and bring home to Cleveland. But they're not overly excited about their record. They don't always talk about how good they are of a regular season team. They are focused on the goal, and they continuously downplay anytime we give them any kind of kudos.
I'd agree. I mean, today the Draymond Green show had Darius Garland as their guest, and obviously they recorded right after that Oklahoma City game. And about the only bravado or gloating that Darius Garland offered was, we legitimately deserve to have 4 All-Stars, which I don't even think is gloating. I mean, that the way that this team is, the record is, the way that these guys are playing, and they're playing every day. I mean, this is right now is the only stint that we've had a piece of the core 4 out for more than a game. It's just incredible.
It is. And I think, to your point with the health, that's big on Kenny Atkinson and how deep he's gone into this rotation and how much he's trusted guys. Like, even yesterday, like, you've seen parts of teams or coaches that have a philosophy when they're fully healthy to just play 8 guys or 9 guys. You've seen teams that only trust a handful of players on their roster. Kenny legitimately trusts everyone, like 1 through 17. And it's something that really has paid dividends. Like, you look at what Jalen Tyson was able to accomplish in the first half yesterday, playing with the regulars against Phoenix and really making an impact on the defensive end, getting his hand in there for every contested rebound, making a couple of threes, getting in there, getting to the free throw line, just doing the little stuff. And, you know, that's just like a prime example. That's a rookie. And then the other story was Tristan Thompson hasn't played all season long, comes in, gets 10 boards, plays 18 minutes straight, which is hard for anybody to do in a game. He played 18 minutes straight. The vet, the wily vet of the Cavs locker room, goes in there, well-conditioned, gets 10 boards, blocks a shot. One of the most athletic guys in the league, too, he blocked, which is Ryan Dung, rookie for the Suns. Like, he just did so many different things for them, screen setting and just sealing when guys are getting down, driving to the paint. So that's just an example. Like, those guys don't play, but they played legitimate minutes against Phoenix because they needed to. Karis LeVert was down, Evan Mobley was down, Isaac Okoro obviously is down. So they're able to depend on each other, and they don't have to make guys play 40 minutes in a game. I still think that no one's played 40 minutes in a game yet.
Nobody's crossed 35 minutes.
Which is insane, considering how much the core four has been leaned on in the last 4 years by JB Bickerstaff, who obviously has his own philosophy like that. Tom Thibodeau has the same thing. It's not saying one thing's right or one thing's wrong, but something that's plagued the Cavs when they get past the All-Star break is the injury bug and wear and tear injuries like the knees. And, you have sometimes just some back issues or something like that. Like, you don't see any of that with this team. And that's a huge, huge part of why I think they're going to be successful. And I have a lot more reasons, too, why I think they're going to be successful when it comes to the postseason.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I want to kind of talk real quick about the job Kobe Altman's really done putting this group together. And I think it's something like we talk about all the time. I know it's something that comes up quite a bit between guys like you and, the Danny Cunninghams of the world, just kind of talking about that as well. And I think that the thing that impresses me the most about the job he's done is nothing feels too risky. Donovan Mitchell might have been a risky trade, big picture, but it's looking great every day. And it paid dividends.
Paid more picks.
Yeah, I say it helped them out a little bit more today with that trade Utah and Phoenix made. So that certainly helps. And then, Evan Mobley, I know you can kind of make the case dropped in their lap, but what if Houston does the right move at 2 in that draft? And so that works out. But the biggest thing too, I feel like, is how he structured his roster to kind of almost finally take the ghost of LeBron pass out of this team, and they're their own identity. And I feel like what he's kind of done with that has just really been unbelievable. What are your thoughts on just the roster building and really just kind of, I guess you can finally say something about rebuilding done right?
It's like a web. If you start back at when LeBron, honestly, it started in LeBron's last year, and it was the second half of the season. I still remember the call to this day being on the phone, fountains, not drains. And it was just this is the only way we're going to be able to kickstart out of the LeBron era. He didn't say that, but obviously this is what the kind of assumption was, which was to be correct because he ended up going to the Lakers later that summer. But it was, bringing in a guy like Jordan Clarkson, a pick, you get Larry Nance in there, you get all these kinds of different guys. I think I mentioned Clarkson. And then you go forward and those end up being guys that you're getting assets for in a way. And it just kind of has a trickle effect. Colin was a big part of this core and he was needed to be a trade piece to get someone else. Lauri Markkanen, same thing. When he went and made the Lauri Markkanen trade in Utah, that was legitimately the revelation of Lowry's career.
Yeah.
When JB put him at the 3 and then big ball really started. These all have little webs. If I had a chart, it would be great to see what turned into what. But you're right. He doesn't take too much risk outside of maybe some off-season deals. Nothing usually in the middle of the year, except for the one big one we can say is Karis LeVert and Jarrett Allen when he was involved in a 4-team trade with James Harden. That right there was zero risk involved, I think, for what they were sending out.
Dante Exum.
Getting back a guy like Jarrett Allen, who is at that time pegged to be one of the better center prospects and pretty much a proven 2/3 with Karis LeVert to get him in later on. That was a hell of a move. And that kind of got everything trickling forward. Like obviously those were separate moves. Jarrett came in with Taurean Prince, but LeVert was later on down the line. Like those aren't extremely risky, type of acquisitions. So like you have that, and then you have to look at the draft. You have to look at Darius and Evan. You just said Evan kind of fell into their lap if Houston doesn't take Jalen Green where they took Jalen Green. And it just kind of all meshed together. There's a perfect combination of youth and prime youth. Is that a way to say it? Because they're not old, and they're certainly not out of their prime, but they're not as young as the DGs and the Evans of the world.
Yeah.
So that's the way I see it. And I give a ton of credit to Kobe Altman because he took some hits, man. And he's still taking hits. There are people still after the 6 losses that they've had. I've never had more loud people in my mentions on whatever social media platform say, "Oh, they can't beat teams with this kind of length and this kind of athleticism." And my retort to that is, there is questions there. Like I'm not gonna go out and say that that's completely off base. And Kenny Atkinson does acknowledge that. But in most cases this year, that hasn't been the reason they have lost those games. The reason they've lost those games is much of the time self-inflicted. And they know how to play with each other. There's no way you go halfway through the season and you've only played 4 teams that have length and strength. There's no way. 0%. The NBA is littered with those types of players and teams. Did they not just beat Minnesota? Pretty handily, by the way, on the road against a team that is long and athletic and strong. Like, that I think is a little bit overplayed. There is differences in tiers of that. Like, Boston, we know, always is a threat. Atlanta. I don't think Indiana is a team that has quite the same type of reach and length that the other teams do. Toronto typically is a team that gives them trouble, but they smacked them up this year. So I don't know. I think that's an overplayed trope, but that's literally the only thing I think that has come critical his way this year. And maybe the sense of they're not really invested into a younger and more athletic big, maybe when Evan and JA are not playing, but these are nitpicky ass things though, man.
Yes,
like very
I
nitpicky.
think you still take 36-6.
And that's the thing, like they're like, oh, like regular season record doesn't mean it means something. Like the players don't have to say it means something, but we can say it means something.
Yeah.
If you clearly don't see a difference in what you're watching this year, then you're just straight up delusional. You do not know the game because it's not like they're going out with one formula and winning with said formula. They're able to adapt to whatever style. They have multiple ways to beat you, whether it's a big lineup, it's going small ball, it's going more traditional. They've got so many different ways to go about winning basketball games. And they're amazing in the clutch, too.
You're
But,
beating
like-
the drum that I've been saying all year is that this team finds a way to beat you.
Yeah,
Doesn't
exactly.
matter what it is. 3 ball, they can beat you. Go drive into the hole, they can beat you. Talls, they can beat you. Small ball, they can beat you. Pace, they can beat you. Clutch, they can beat you. Like we've seen all these wins pile up because this team pivots and finds ways to beat you. And I would say that the losses were the games where they didn't pivot. They stuck to some plan way too long past what they should have. You think that Thunder game, you think that Miami game, you think those Hawks games. Those were the games that they lost, and it's because they didn't play Cavs ball and pivot when they needed to.
Yeah, and I think the Hawks one was also around holiday time. So I'm just putting that one out there. Miami, you're gonna have trouble with Miami. They're just tough to play at home. Like that's just a Miami thing. Like, and they are. They're definitely a physical group. I know they're having their issues right now and trying to solve some stuff going on with Jimmy Butler, but they're always a tough team to play, and they kind of try to grind you down. Oklahoma City's the same way, except they have so much more offensive firepower. That team is a juggernaut. That is
so good.
I hope so much that is the finals. It's the Cavs and the Thunder. Like,
Me too.
You're supposed to be unbiased, but like after watching what I saw in Cleveland, I need to see Chet in that game. I need to see Isaiah Hartenstein and him both be able to be active. I need to see two healthy rosters. Caruso didn't play in the game in Cleveland either. Ended up doing a great job in the rematch where the Thunder absolutely slapped the Cavs around.
Yeah.
But that's a juggernaut team. You look at Atlanta. Look at who Atlanta's beaten this year. I think that gives you a pretty good idea of whether or not there's a recurring problem with the Cavs in particular, because the Hawks have beaten the Celtics twice. They gave New York a run for their money on the end of their road trip the other night. They've had some quality wins. So if you really go through it, guys, like it's much ado about nothing to me. It's nitpicky. That's the word I go with. Nitpicky.
I'm going to ask you this, and this is going to sound extremely dorky, but watching this team on a daily basis, like we all do now, with us doing a show after every game, you being a part of being around the team, I'm starting to notice these tendencies that are like super basketball nerddom that I absolutely love about this team. And like we talk about them on the show all the time, and I crack up myself when I go back and listen. But I'm like, man, Donovan Mitchell's really good at tracking down long rebounds, and Darius Garland's so good at dropping a pass off into the dunker spot. Is there any of those dorky tendencies you see that we probably keep an eye on that you notice as far as like the basketball nerddom that we should keep an eye for?
Kenny talks about it all the time, man. Like if you look at our quick plug on our Cleveland Cavaliers on SI YouTube channel, in the pre-games in particular, he's very, very analytical and looks at data and stuff like that. Like I just had a conversation. I'll post it later on the line when I get a chance to ask Donovan about it, because Donovan had to jet pretty quickly because they had to fly to Houston last night. I asked Kenny about Donovan's rim percentage, conversion percentage, and like he gave me just a terrific answer, like asking me like what the numbers were and stuff like that. I was like, I got it. It's about 9-10% down from what it usually is, and he like didn't immediately just like he doesn't do that. And I think too, like when you come prepared and you know what you're asking, you're not just pulling something out of your ass too.
Right.
Like he's going to respect it, and it's been like that this year. Like I asked him, like I don't know if you guys saw this, but like one of my clips that I put up, went viral. I think in like November, about cutting and if cutting is as effective as spacing.
Yeah,
Oh,
saw
yeah,
that.
Yeah. Like he really dove into that question, and I'm like really grateful that he gave me that answer, because it got me a lot of love. A lot of coaches were like sending me stuff, like, so that was really cool. So he is more than willing to go into the analytical conversation. I'm sure the players do pay attention to it because they listen to Kenny, and Kenny preaches being process oriented. He preaches the data, and also, going back to the conversation about keeping guys fresh, like it plays into his rotation and his decisions in the rotation, and a lot of that credit goes to the performance team. And I posted something about that the other day too, that he really gives a lot of credit to, and he knows how to manage that kind of. But yeah, as far as like net ratings and like I don't know like if we've gotten into like BPM or like RPM or any of that stuff, but like I'm sure he would have a conversation about it. But yeah, you don't hear too much of that in the locker room, I would say. You hear it more at the press conference desk.
There's something that they brought up on the Draymond Green podcast today, because Kenny was with the Warriors before. And so him and DG were talking about Kenny and stuff like that. And they praised, like, he is a super analytical guy, but not one of those guys that throws out everything, throws out common sense, or throws out his just basketball mind for analytics. And I think that's a lot of what you're talking about, is that like he's very analytical about a lot of that stuff, but he still has like he's just a basketball junkie, and the basketball mind to go with a different rotation based on what either the performance team says or kind of how he sees these matchups.
He's in the lab cooking up the potions, man. He just knows what works together, and if it doesn't work, he'll go with something else. He's not afraid to make mistakes. He's not afraid to try things in the regular season, which is exactly what you should do. because even though they mean something, they don't mean something. Like it's a push and shove kind of thing. Like he is very good at having that balance and that mental balance, which is really good for the team. And he's also somebody that doesn't really get any overreactive or underreactive. He's a very even-keeled person, very much so like Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell is extremely level-headed and not get too high, not get too low. There's some guys in the Cavs locker room who are emotional, the George Niangs of the world and the Max Struses. They, have a little bit of a hothead. Darius Garland can get that way sometimes too, when he's not getting calls and should be getting calls. But that level-headedness too, I think pays off in the long run and shows that professionalism needed to have that attitude going towards April, May, and June.
So, Spencer, you'll be shocked to know, and Skylar will laugh at this, but we're 21 minutes into this podcast. It's the first time I'm legitimately asking about Evan Mobley. So the joke is that I saw Evan Mobley playing EYBL in high school, and I was like, okay, this guy is a freak. And I covered our local Division I college basketball here, UC, Xavier, the Seams, and I would always be around NBA scouts. And the year before his draft, I was asking people, like, what do you think of Evan Mobley? Like, I saw him play in this, and I thought he looked really good at Indianapolis EYBL. And it might have been there. I can't remember where I saw him. But he was playing for the Compton Magic. I remember that.
Yep.
And they were like, this guy is going to be the best player in the NBA at some point. And these are legit NBA scouts telling me this. And so, of course, we get to the point where it's like this first few years, you can see the defense, you can see the offensive potential. This year, the leap has obviously happened. And we all talk about it. As you're a Cavs fan, you talk about it. If you're somebody who covers the Cavs, you talk about it. For you, as someone who's a little bit closer to the team than we are, obviously, what's been the biggest thing you've seen besides just the obvious? Well, he's a good 3-point shooter now. Like, what's been the biggest thing that jumps out to you about the Evan Mobley leap that's been talked about quite a bit?
Offensively, noticing him bringing the ball up more. That's what Kenny always points to, is just how he's able to get Darius and Donovan off the ball. I think using him in inverted pick and rolls is also a big thing. You mentioned the 3-pointer. I think that's actually a huge part of it, because when he's a threat out there, then that makes guys have to choose between a guy on the wing and a guy on the corner. Who do you close out on? And if you close out on the wrong guy, he's going to shoot it. If you close out on the other guy, he's going to swing it to the other guy to shoot it. So just being a threat out there is huge. I think he's just gotten stronger physically and mentally too. He is not going to be discouraged by a bad quarter. He will continue to attack. They still got to get him a little bit better with the handle. He's improved this year. I don't want anyone taking this the wrong way. He's improved this year, but he can still get a little loose. I see this, and I've asked him about this too. I think he's left side strong. I think his left hand is his best handling hand. I think his attack mode going left is stronger and more ferocious than when he goes right. So maybe keep an eye on that. I don't know. That's the scout in me. But I love when he attacks left. He's ambidextrous too when it comes to that little jump hook. I think the mid-post turnaround looked good a couple weeks ago. He's kind of just added it all. And the playmaking, we know how good he is at making reads now. You can use him in the middle. You can use him at the elbows. You can use him at the nail. He's just kind of taking that leap and rebounding and pushing. That's the other thing, man. Going coast to coast. Like, I see Giannis when I see him rebound and go the full length of the court. That's what I see. I saw that someone else, and I had made this comparison in the past, the Draymond thing, but just 7 foot and a little bit bigger.
A little quicker, yeah.
Yeah, a little quicker, a little bit more long, a little longer. So, yeah, I think all of the above. I mean, defensively, you can't really talk about defensively because what haven't we touched on in that end of the floor? And you know how switchable he is. You know how much ground he covers and how quickly he can close out to the perimeter and how he can also help you on the weak side if someone gets beat. Like, it's a total package right now. And hopefully this calf injury doesn't slow him down. I don't think it will. I just think they're being a little cautious on this.
Yeah,
I think when you're 36-6, you can be cautious with some guys.
Yeah.
Before I let Skylar talk, 2 things I want to point out to kind of further the Mobley point. is you talked about all the different ways to use him. I think he's been really incredible as the trailer on the fast break and transition. Like that's been such a nice thing. Like, and you saw a glimpse of that in the preseason. You were like, we were talking about it, like, oh my God, this is like a great spot for him. And the other is how much respect he's getting around the league has really jumped out too. So I was there in October. I was in Cleveland for the Laker game. And this is early season LeBron. So defense is still there on occasion in the early season. He's guarding Mobley in the half court. And I was like, oh my God, this is like a big sign for this leap of Evan Mobley. Like if LeBron's like, I got to do this way, because you know that game still means something to him when he's in town. And so to see that he was the one that was like, I got 4. I was like, holy shit, this is pretty cool.
I wish that we could have seen him take on KD on Monday.
Yeah.
It just such a shame. Bad timing. Hopefully we see that matchup when they're in Phoenix. If he's still there, I don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, no one does.
I don't think anybody knows what's going on down there.
So, but yeah, no, Evans he's taken the leap. This is no mirage, there's no flash in the pan. It's been this way, maybe not to the extent that it's been this season, but you started to see it when the Boston series happened.
Yeah.
And it's funny though, because I mean, Jared Allen's been probably just as good the last like 2 weeks, and getting back to him getting touches and being efficient in the paint and playmaking out of the short roll or over the top to the corners. He's been really good too. So like everyone tried to put a divide, put a stake between those two, and has continued to try to do that. And I still see no reason why, especially now that Evan is more of a perimeter threat. He's able to have the ball in his hands and operate face up rather than having 2 guys in the middle clogging up space for Donovan and Darius and whatever other drivers are going to come in there. I think that this works, and I had no doubt in my mind that it would work as soon as Evan developed his offense, but people don't have patience anymore.
Skylar's probably sick of me talking about high-low and how well the Cavs run it.
Yes. big to big, baby. Big to big.
I think it's great. One thing I can't wait to see is when Evan Mobley puts his NBA weight on, because right now he's listed at 215. Wait till he gets to like that 230, 235. Like, because KD, for those that don't watch the NBA, KD's listed at 240 right now. So if you get that NBA muscle on you, think about how unstoppable he's going to be just coming down as the trailer on a play.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that's over time you add more muscle. Like the last 3 years, every summer he's added more and more upper body. But, Kenny talked about his lower body strength and like adding some mass to his legs. So that's even bigger because you have more to push off of. You can kind of impose your will that way. And you have different ways to kind of get low and get bodies out of the way. And he's also extremely, I don't know, can you use the word elastic for a person? I don't know if is that a good word? I don't know, flexible?
The Fantastic Four does wear the number 4, Mr. Fantastic.
You could call him Inspector Gadget too if you want, because he's got arms coming out of places I don't even know. But seriously, he's just getting started. I think he's 23, 22.
I know. He's got to get that metabolism needs to take a hit so he can start putting some weight on.
I don't know. Be careful what you wish for, man.
This is the franchise that traded for Sean Kemp, okay?
Yeah. Oh, man. That's going back.
I told you I'm old, so.
Hey, Rain Man was my favorite player when he was on the Sonics, and I was like 4. So it was Rain Man and T-Mac on the Raptors, and then T-Mac became a superstar, and then Sean obviously came here. So saw a couple games with Sean, but Wesley Person, that was the 3-point shooter right there. That was the 3-point shooter.
Scott, you throw anything under?
Oh, is there anything I want to get under?
Yeah, I mean, you're a co-host on this said show, so you're welcome to speak too.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, we're talking about just the good vibes that are on this team. But we are approaching the deadline. February 6th is the deadline. So what are your thoughts, I guess, on how they approach this? I mean, to me, right now they're the betting favorites for Cam Johnson. I think he's an incredible ad. for this team. I think you go from a core 4 to a core 5 when you add Cam Johnson. And to me, this team seems like the team to push all the chips in and be all in on.
It is. I also think you have to weigh in the factor of the temperature of the locker room right now.
Mm-hmm.
This is different. Kenny's talked about it over and over again about how connected they are. That's the buzzword he uses. Connected. They understand what they're trying to accomplish. They understand they have to sacrifice for each other. They trust one another, and that's big. It's not a game of 2K, as I like to try to tell everybody. Like, it's not like there is a glaring need. I don't think this is a glaring need that the Cavs have, personally. If they operate the way they do, if they play to their identity, and they take care of the basketball the way that they have, and continue to play the pace they play at, I don't think there's a need for it. Now, if you can find somebody that you can get for a future first or a cavalcade of picks, second rounders, sure, you look at that. I mean, you look at who they would move. Like, it's hard to pick anyone out of the locker room that wouldn't upset it. Like, if they were to trade Isaac, that locker room would be, like, not happy. Like, Isaac is probably the most liked person in that locker room.
Like picture to that.
Like, because he's the comic relief. You don't see it on camera. He is just subtly funny. But he's just a huge personality, but you just don't see it on camera because he's not like that with us. Isaac would really be I think if you traded George away, George gets a little too much hate from me. And this comes from someone who I was critical of him last year. But George gets too much hate. He has his games where he's not as fast or as athletic against some guys. And maybe that's something on Kenny to look at. Maybe throw Dean in there or a Karras, or now that you have Max to try and stay in front of guys, whatever it is. But for some of these bigger teams, like in Minnesota, he was phenomenal.
Yeah, he was.
He was phenomenal in his minutes. Against Phoenix, he guarded KD and did a good job. I don't know what it is about this preconceived notion with George. And George is shooting well again, too. I think isn't he above 40 now?
Yeah.
Like, so I don't get the infatuation with trying to get him off the team from a lot of these fans. I don't see a huge issue with George. If he tries to go out of his comfort zone a little and, like, try to ISO someone or, like, make a stupid play, that happens everywhere. But he sticks to his role. He knows how to swing pass. He's been insanely good at using the floater to his advantage this year, attacking off closeouts. If you look at his 2-point percentage and whatever he's shooting outside like the restricted area, he's been awesome at that. Defensively, he knows where to be on his rotations. I don't see why people are in a hurry to get him out of there because he's also really experienced in the playoffs. Just like Max Strus is very experienced in the playoffs. That's why they brought those guys in 2 years ago. So, like you look at that element, and then that's not even just touching how much he impacts the locker room too, as comic relief for a lot of these guys, like, and always being himself, like George is a very fun guy. He's, like these all sound like dumb reasons not to make a trade, but like with a team like this, I've never seen it before. Someone asked me before, like, have you seen this kind of locker room, this kind of togetherness? And asked me to compare it to 2016 and the LeBron era. I was like, RJ and Channing had a good time, but they weren't like constantly trying to kill each other's interviews and distract them and, like just be complete fools. Like, and they have a good sense of when to turn up being a fool and when to be serious too. That's another, just like, they're well balanced, like mentally and on the court. I know this is a very long-winded answer, but
even doing nothing is being all in on this team.
I think it could be seen as that because, you ask some people around the organization, Max Strus being back for a month, like could look at that as an acquisition to a team that has already been running roughshod over the league. You also have the buyout market. You never know what comes out of that. And that's what they've done the last, couple of years. They got Marcus Morris last year. The year before that, it was Danny Green. It's just kind of been their MO. You look at maybe trying to get a backup big that's, as I mentioned earlier, maybe a little bit more athletic and taller than Tristan. But
maybe the one that's already played for the Cavs and is in Atlanta right now. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, yeah. I don't know if Larry's taller than Tristan, though. I'm just saying.
That's true.
More athletic.
But
I'll take that though.
But yes, definitely athletic. But you have to make, I think, if you're going to make one, you have to make it marginal. You cannot upset the chemistry. And it's funny, we're going to come back to this conversation when the Cavs, lose, 3 out of 7 games, and people start thinking the sky is falling because the schedule is going to get tougher. But I think I've seen all I need to see. I really do.
It's so funny you say that because this is totally off topic, but I was on the Cavs subreddit today, which is great and dangerous simultaneously, I'm sure as you know. And there was a post saying that the headline was, outside of the 15 and 12 game win streaks, they're only 9-6.
What?
Oh, just discredit half the season?
Right.
What?
Yeah.
Is this a notorious pessimist, or is
I asked him, it's either comedy or it's a notorious pessimist. Yes, I'm not for sure which one.
or that could just be a sarcastic person trying to get a reaction out of someone. Which it seems that's the way that media goes these days, and when you look at the engagement posts on Twitter,
For sure.
Oh man, you don't want to get me rolling on that subject because
that's why we're.
I ain't one of them. I ain't one of them. I'll tell you that much.
Same.
Try to stay credible. I try to just be a good guy and put out positive content. That's where I'll leave that at. And I don't try to fake it till I make it. Some other people.
You reacted to my Mandalorian reference a couple weeks ago on Blue Sky, and that made my universe. I just hope you know that. So that made me really happy. All right, so I did ask you for only 30. I know we're a little over here, so I did want to give 2 more questions before we get out of here.
Yeah.
First, I need your honest opinion as a Cleveland media member. Myself, Skylar, and Kevin, who's not with us tonight. We've been trying to find a great nickname for Ty Jerome. And our listeners have come up to help us with the name of TJ Maxx. And I'm just curious your thoughts on the nickname. Do you dig it? Do you like it?
It's TJ Maxx because he brings everyday great value.
You know what? I might have to pass that one along to him. I was laughing my ass off because Mikey Lucas, who's on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, he does amazing stuff. He's actually a former D3 point guard, so the reason he knows the game so well is because he played. I played, but I played for my church, so it's not anything. Sure. But the reason that Mikey's breakdowns are so good is because he played the game, and he's very well versed in that knowledge. But he was in the locker room the other day, and you'll see this on one of his videos. He straight up asked Ty Jerome about his basketball reference nickname, which apparently is Milk.
Yeah.
And Ty got so mad. He's like, I've never been called that in my life. Do not call me that. So TJ Maxx is definitely better than Milk. I know that chill guy is his thing, but that's a whole trend among the youth is the chill guy thing. But I know he's got a post on that. I don't know. It's a good question. But TJ Maxx, I never heard that. I haven't heard that one. I kind of like that.
We've reached out to Basketball Reference to try to get Milk taken down because we saw him talk about how much he does not like that.
We're men of the people.
Poor Ty. Ty's a good guy though, dude. And funny little anecdote here. Ty's little brother, actually, he practiced and trained with my little brother over the summer because my little brother plays in college too. So,
oh, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he plays at Capital University.
Nice.
Yep.
So last thing before we get out of here, I just really kind of curious your thoughts. A couple months ago, Dan Gilbert and Rocket Group had put out the WNBA in Cleveland website, and I thought that I was going to run through a wall in excitement when I saw the two question survey was, do we have to be the Rockers, and do you need the old color scheme back?
Yes and yes.
Yes, exactly. So that kind of yes, but your thought process on it. I feel like it makes a ton of sense, obviously, with the growth of the WNBA, how great the Rocket Mortgage is, and the upgrades to be the Rocket Mortgage. I was there this year, and it was amazing. And I was like there for the Celtics series to see the upgrades from then. The auditorium where the Chargers are playing is obviously a really cool building. I don't think we have to like put them at the Wolfstein Center at this point with how big the league's going. So there's a lot of different options there. And, where you're do you have like being kind of closer to the area that we are, do you kind of have a feel of how you could see this potentially going? Because Portland's getting their team back next year. Like I said, the league's growing. I feel like Cleveland makes just way too much sense to not be there anymore.
Makes a lot of sense. And I mean, the popularity of women's basketball just skyrocketing. You see what's going on with Unrivaled right now.
Yeah,
man.
it's cool.
It's really cool. I don't see why not. And I think that having another basketball franchise, another team to root for would be awesome. And you got to bring it back. You got to bring back the Rockers. I still remember going to a game when I was like, I think I was like 4 or something like that. And I had an absolute ball. And, I have not been able to see too much of the WNBA because it's not around here, at least live, So, I obviously, when I was in college, I covered some Akron women's basketball games and, electric MAC crowds, love them. So you bring that to the professional level, you're going to get some good attendance. And I mean, you just look at kind of the other teams that are not the Cavs that go at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, like the Lake Erie Monsters draw a great crowd, right?
Yeah.
Like, you look at what the Gladiators brought in when they were here. They did some good numbers. And the Charge over at Public Hall, man, they've been really killing it. An awesome venue there too, by the way. If you haven't got to a Charge game, go to one. It's really cool.
Super cool.
So,
they post photos of it all the time.
Yeah, it's literally like being at the opera, but you're watching hoop. Like, how do you beat that? But yeah, no, I would love to see it. I would love to see a team from the W get here. Expansion, whether it's the Rockers, whether it's not, but I would prefer it to be the Rockers, to be honest. The one time I want to see a guitar in a logo, not like the All-Star game that the Guardians hosted. Not everything is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, but in this particular case, yes, I need that. I need that logo back. Need that gray, that blue. It's really nice.
You're talking about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame being in the All-Star game. We're from Cincinnati. We had mustaches. That was the logo and everything. Mustaches.
Oh my gosh. Old timey Cincy. I still working those games with the old timers that play the games before the games. They have the little stockings and the wooden
team.
bats and the yep.
Yeah, it's a good time, man. Well, Spencer, this was awesome, man. I can't thank you enough I'm so happy we can make this work and get you on the show. We definitely would love to have you again for sure. But before we get out of here, I know all Cleveland fans do know where to find you, but for those who are just joining the bandwagon, like some of us are, where can they find Spencer Davies' work and where can they keep up with you on the day-to-day basis?
Okay, so do you got 5 minutes? Let's crack the knuckles.
I get it. I'm the same way. Yeah.
No, but on Twitter and X and IG and Blue Sky, I'm at Spin Davies. You can find my work in multiple different places. I do a lot. So let's start with Cavs on SI. I actually don't write much. I just am behind the camera. I'm making those super cuts. I posted one literally right before I got on the show, honestly. I take the post games, put them on our YouTube channel at Cleveland Cavaliers on SI. So subscribe, comment, like, rate, review, do all that good stuff. We also have a podcast, Courtside with Cavs on SI. Do the same thing for that because we're really trying to get that going, me and Spencer German. But Spence covers like a gajillion teams in Ohio, so it's really hard to get him in one place. He also has a toddler and a brand new car. So,
I understand.
So, yes, so it's a little bit tough, but he's doing really good work. Just cover the Buckeye game, actually. But he is a big part of what we do at Cavs on SI, si.com/NBA/Cavaliers. In other situations, I cover the NBA as a whole and basketball as a whole, really. So I have my work over at rg.org. I had 2 interviews, exclusives come out last week. I talked to Mark Williams of the Hornets, who's an on-the-rise big man you have to be paying attention to. He is awesome and has barely had a chance because he's had so many injuries. Had a really good conversation with him. Had a good talk with Ben Shepherd about being kind of the role player after being a star in college. I thought that was a really good discussion. Those two came out back to back. And then at Babcock Hoops, the other outlet that I read for, have NBA draft coverage. I did a literal book. I feel like it was a book. It was 4,000 plus word long form feature on Alex Toohey, who is a NBL next star playing for the Sydney Kings over in the NBL, and he is going to be an NBA player. Talked to him. I talked to Chris Pongrass, who's the CEO of the team and used to be the Memphis Grizzlies basketball operations director, and Xavier Cooks, somebody who played for the Wizards a couple years ago, made some really nice music in that piece, so I was really happy with that. But yeah, I had a busy last week. Got one coming up. Talked to Ryan Dunn of the Suns before the game on Monday, just about the trust that the team's been having in him to put him in the starting lineup. And obviously Bradley Beal's on the bench now, so that's pretty crazy for a rookie to get that job. But that's just a little taste of some of the stuff I do. But thanks for the opportunity, and I loved coming on here, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up this edition of the show. Thank you guys for hanging out. Of course, we definitely appreciate all the conversation. We will be back. So this is going up Wednesday. So we'll be back tonight for the Rockets game, if you're catching this on Wednesday. So obviously Cleveland starts their 2 games this week with Houston on Wednesday. So be sure to hang out with us for that as well. But on behalf of Skylar Webker, on behalf of Kevin Lynch, this is Tim Daniel. Everyone, thanks for hanging out. Give us all those podcast likes, subscriptions, reviews that we all need to kind of get this thing growing. Thank you all. Have a good night, and we'll see you, I guess, later tonight.
Go Cavs.